Hello and welcome to today's webinar on the benefits of decision analysis. Thank you for attending. I'll start with some housekeeping. This webinar is going to be recorded and will be sent to you on demand at the end of the presentation. There will be a short Q&A session at the end, time permitting, and we are hoping to finish around 2:30 or 2:40, so we'll happily answer your questions via email. Our addresses are going to be at the end of these slides. Our presentation is fairly relaxed and easy to follow. There are amusing bits, and although we won't be able to hear you laughing, I am going to assume you are finding us hilarious. So let's start. When we have a decision to make in life, we would think about what a good outcome would look like, consider what options we have available to us, weigh them up against each other, and then choose a way forward. It is likely that this process is done in our heads with little consultation with anybody else. This process is very similar when we have to do decision making within projects and programs. However, we have to be much more transparent and collaborative than we might be otherwise. We refer to this decision making process as decision analysis, options appraisal, or optioneering. All can be used interchangeably. Decision analysis is a systematic examination and evaluation of the performance of a set of alternative options. Today, we are going to tell you about the benefits of using decision analysis techniques within programs and projects. So hello again, I am Alison Fisher. I am the Decision Analysis Team Leader at Tufts Nuclear Technologies. I have worked in the nuclear industry for 20 years or more as an optioneering, facilitation and waste management specialist, gained through working across a variety of projects and disciplines, including improvements for strategic manufacturing facilities, submarine dismantling strategies, and spent fuel and legacy waste management projects. My favourite part of my job is when I engage with stakeholders to guide them through a tailor-made decision analysis process. Outside of work, I am heavily involved with my children's primary school, being both the chair of governors and the chair of the PTA. I like baking and cooking and entertaining, and I'm also the company's mental health first aider.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending this webinar. My name is Karen Story. I'm a member of the Tufts Decision Analysis team. I work with Alison underpinning decisions for projects within the nuclear sector, including strategic manufacturing facilities using a range of techniques, including options appraisals. I have a mini obsession with the theory of high-performing teams, and I like to apply this wherever I can, school's PTA, my son's rugby team, my netball team, but most importantly, within decision analysis workshops. So, what is decision analysis? Well, let me tell you. We've chosen 4 key points about decision analysis to tell you about today. Firstly, we will explain briefly how transparent decision making is a regulatory requirement and the processes used extensively in the nuclear industry. Then we'll tell you that there are a number of different options appraisal techniques available to us and that each has their merits. We will highlight the key stages that are used in the application of a decision analysis technique. And lastly, we will highlight what benefits there are of using a clear decision analysis process and how it can benefit your project in terms of making informed and justified decisions with the ultimate aim of giving confidence to the regulator that you followed a structured process in your decision making. Right. So, most important, there is a regulatory expectation from the Office for Nuclear Regulation that proper consideration is given to the identification and evaluation of a full range of options in order to ensure that the radiological hazards associated with plants and equipment is minimised. The Environment Agencies require submissions such as waste management disposal strategies to provide a clear account of the decision-making process. This includes aspects such as justified assumptions and confirmation of the validity of the data used in the study, such that the outcome achieves the minimum impact on the environment. Neither the ONR or Environment Agencies will specify which options appraisal techniques should be followed, but they will assess the way in which submissions have been conducted and the way in which the decision-making methodology has been applied. Ultimately, the options appraisal technique should ensure decision-making is systematic, comprehensive, transparent, and my favourite, auditable. So, Given that thorough options appraisal is a regulatory requirement, you will not be surprised to hear that the process of decision analysis is used extensively in the nuclear industry, both by site licence companies and government departments. Between us, Alison and I have performed optioneering studies for all of these companies. Most recently, we've carried out all of the optioneering for a project looking at improving the manufacturing facilities at an AWE site. We've done a study on the management of spent fuel from the Sizewell B reactor. And additionally, we've looked at the preferred choice for dismantling submarines located at Rosyth Dockyard for the MOD. But the main point here is decision analysis is a regulatory requirement and is used by a variety of site licence companies and government departments. Okay, let's move on, Alison.
Okay, so I acknowledge this is a busy slide. You don't need to try and read it while I'm talking. I will talk through the slide after I've read out my carefully written slide notes. So the role of options appraisal in evaluation is to provide objective analysis to support decision making. This should be applied proportionately according to the needs of the programme or the project, the associated hazards and the complexity of scale of the decision being undertaken. When we start a new project which requires optioneering, we work with the customer to identify a tailor-made, formalised system that would best suit the decision to be made. This ensures we have stakeholder buy-in to the approach before they get an outcome they don't like the look of. There are a range of techniques that can be used for evaluating a set of choices, as shown on this slide. On the left there, we have scoring of options. We have multi-attribute decision analysis, which uses quantitative data or qualitative information to assess options against each other against a set of attributes. We have simple ranking of options, which can be used to determine a best solution, particularly at the start of a project when knowledge and information is limited and you're trying to get a gut feeling about the options. There's reasoned argument, such as engineering good judgment or justification, which is often used when the decision to be made is quite specific and obvious, as opposed to, say, determining a larger strategy. And on the right-hand side, we've got benefits mapping, or simply identifying the advantages and disadvantages of a set of options. And the list really does go on. Now, in the same way you're not supposed to have a favourite child, I'm not supposed to have a preferred decision analysis technique, but I do. In both cases, I favour multi-attribute decision analysis, MARDA. It's no coincidence that it's at the top of that list. MARDA largely covers a number of the other techniques. We would identify the advantages and disadvantages of an option in order to input into a scoring exercise. We would use a reasoned argument to justify a set of option scores, and we would achieve a ranked order of options to be able to determine a preferred solution. We're going to talk about this more as we move through the slides. So as you can see from this, there are a range of decision analysis techniques to choose from.
Okay, so this section is the longer part of the presentation, as we feel it's necessary to go through the key stages of decision analysis, which are generally similar, regardless of which technique you choose to use. Now, this presentation is about the key benefits of decision analysis in the nuclear industry. However, to avoid using sensitive project information and to keep this high level, we've incorporated a worked example of buying a car to show you how it might work in real life. Probably most of us have bought a car at least once in our lifetime. I've bought several, and hopefully by using this example, it will bring the words more alive and make it easier to understand rather than us just throwing words at you. And the following slides go through these key stages.
Okay, so the first stage of decision analysis is to define the problem. You would work with the key stakeholders to thoroughly understand the problem statement to ensure you are answering the right question. Then you identify what a good outcome would look like. What are your critical success factors? Once you know this information, you can identify all of the potential options that could solve your problem. Invariably, you will have a large list of choices, some of which will be more suitable than others. In this case, you would carry out a course screening exercise where you assess the options against the critical success factors and eliminate those options that do not achieve that initial assessment. I cannot express this part enough. Regardless of the scale of this stage of the process, as in carried out individually or in a group environment with relevant stakeholders, this whole stage of the optioneering process needs to be formally documented in order to form an auditable trail with appropriate justification for option down selection. This ensures options that have previously been discounted do not rear their ugly heads again as we move into a project, especially if a new project team comes in and wants to start again from the beginning. So this slide shows the buying a car example that Karen referred to a moment ago. Let's imagine we are buying a car. Like I said at the start of this presentation, it is likely a decision such as this would be something you would do in your head, but in this case, we will treat this example as a formal decision. The project requires a new car to be purchased because the current one is old and unreliable. The project has a budget of £25,000 and wants a car that has good fuel economy, is suitable for a family, and has appropriate safety features as standard. These are the critical success factors of the project, and the chosen car should meet these points. The project initially considers 10 different cars and assesses these against the success factors. The assessment shows that 7 cars are not considered suitable, so are core screened out, and 3 cars are remaining. It is these 3 cars, cars A, B, and C, that are carried forward for assessment in the decision analysis study. Because we know we have to meet regulatory expectations, we formalise all of this in a written statement. So the next stage of decision analysis is the option development part, in terms of selecting a set of attributes that the options will be assessed against. Attributes are aspects that are important to decision making within a project or a program, or in our case, the car example, and they are developed in conjunction with decision makers and key stakeholders. The colourful circles on the right show the high-level attributes that we generally use, such as safety, technical, environmental, and economic. These attributes are based on guidance set out in the NDA value framework, which is readily available on the internet. Attributes should be relevant to the decision being made, provide discrimination between options, avoid double counting, be at similar levels of detail for each option, and be quantifiable, even if only via a simple scoring scheme or ranking process. To ensure the fair comparison of options during a decision analysis study, the options need to be developed to a consistent level of detail in relation to the selected attributes, as discussed on the previous slide. It is sometimes useful to use an options datasheet to assist in this development process, which is simply a table of 2 columns where the first column includes the chosen attribute and the second column is the response to that attribute. This is particularly useful to get a project team to focus on how the options need to be developed to a consistent level of detail. At this stage, we are not comparing options against each other. The data collected on each option can be either quantitative or qualitative. For example, quantitative data could be miles per gallon, cost, millisieverts for operator dose, a building height, tons of CO2 produced, etc. Qualitative information is more of a judgment, and you could use a calibration table to show what a good or bad option would look like, or a simple scoring method such as 1 to 10. So back to the example of buying a car, the project team has chosen a set of attributes that suits the project and the decision being made. The colourful circles are no longer as colourful because the team didn't feel like all attributes were relevant to the decision to buy a new car. Attributes that have been chosen are under the headings of safety, technical, environmental, and economic. So here we have safety features, measured quantitatively by adding up the number of safety features that come as standard. Under technical, go with me, we have the very technical aspects that are space and comfort, brand and styling, and level of customer service offered during initial consultations. All of these are measured qualitatively using a simple 1 to 10 scoring system. Then we have fuel economy within the environment category, measured quantitatively in miles per gallon. And finally, we have the price of each car measured in pounds. The actual option assessment part of the decision analysis study is often done in a workshop environment and attended by a range of stakeholders who all have a vested interest in the project. It can also be done independently or in small groups. You would use the data you have collected so far, along with expert judgment from in the room, to assess and compare your options against the attributes you've chosen. This information could be input into a spreadsheet that you've developed, or in our case, we like to use a software called HighView. The 3 screenshots on the right of the slide are taken from HighView and show the scores for 3 attributes: fuel economy at the top, cost at the bottom, and customer service on the right. Both quantitative data and qualitative data has been input into HighView. However option assessment is undertaken, it is imperative, again, that decisions, actions, and justifications are clearly documented to provide this auditable trail that we keep going on about. Now we move on to attribute weighting. This is often a difficult aspect to understand and explain, so I have included an example on the next 2 slides. Attribute weighting can be done in 2 ways. Swing weighting identifies the significance of the difference between the best and the worst scoring options per attribute, whilst important weightings reflect how important an attribute is perceived to be towards informing the decision. The ideal way to weight attributes is to use a mixture of both. So you would consider the significance of the difference between the highest and lowest rating options, whilst taking into account the importance of that attribute to the project or program and the decision to be made. These weightings are submitted into the spreadsheet or the model, whichever you're using. So here's an example of swing weighting made easy. The project is still buying this car and still has a budget of £25,000. Initially, the cost of the car was thought to be the most important aspect of this decision. However, the course screening exercise resulted in 3 cars that were very similarly priced and all within budget, as you can see on the screen. So now the difference between the cheapest and the most expensive car is not as big as expected, i.e., the significance of the difference is low. Cost is still considered to be an important attribute, however, so that would be taken into account when allocating a weighting to the cost attribute. Similarly, in a real-life nuclear example, we always hear people say safety is the most important attribute. And yes, it is. Of course, we agree. However, you will likely have screened out or any unsafe options at the start of the project, and your remaining options are often likely to be as safe as each other. So yes, safety is important, but that difference between the options is lower than you previously thought, and therefore safety no longer has to be the highest weighted attribute, as it doesn't impact on the decision-making process. That's when you look to another attribute, which would maybe have more impact on the decision-making. So let's imagine that the project initially thought that fuel economy was not so important, but this analysis and this option assessment phase has shown that the fuel economy of each car is more significant, and there is more of a difference between the miles per gallon values, as shown on this screen. You can see there is an overall difference of 20 miles per gallon between the best and the worst scoring cars. And I'm not going to pretend that I know whether these numbers are actually good or bad. I would really just go by the colour, but that doesn't matter, does it? Therefore, the weighting on fuel economy will be larger than the project originally felt it would be. I do hope you're still following. Okay, next slide. So this slide is, we'll go over this quickly. I just thought we would add this slide to show you how a decision analysis model looks in the HighView software. The decision at the top of the tree is there. It says buying a car. The high-level attributes are the next level down. They are the safety, technical, environmental, and economic ones I've mentioned. And the lower level attributes are the attributes by which the options are being assessed by. And we've said, didn't we, their safety features, customer service, brand and styling, etc. So that's how it looks when we do our model.
Okay.
Yeah. The option scores and attribute weightings, and they are different, are now input into the spreadsheet or model, and a set of total weighted scores is generated. Now the project can start the process of determining a preferred solution. If you look at the bottom line of that screenshot on the left, we can see that car A scores 68 points, car B scores 26 points, and car C scores 73 points. These weighted scores would indicate that car B scored very poorly and can be discounted or eliminated from further decision making. But we can also see that car A and car C have just 5 points between them, and so they score or perform very similarly within this study. I have purposely shown you an example where two options score similarly to indicate that you should never take the top scoring option at face value. Clearly, in this case, car A also has merit to be considered further. So, for example, you can see from the top line of the screenshot that it says safety, that car A gets 100 points for number of safety features included, compared to car C, which gets 83 points. But move down the table to environment, and car C is better environmentally with a better fuel economy. So that's why you need your total weighted scores to work out what the difference is between the cars. So I would conclude that cars A and C are both taken forward for further detailed consideration, whilst car B can safely be discounted. Again, all of this options assessment process and the stage would be clearly documented and recorded to provide that auditable trail. A key aspect of options appraisal is determining how robust the overall model or outcome is. Sensitivity analysis really allows us to dig deeper into the output to see how changes in inputs can change the conclusions. For example, a project may have a number of weighting sets that they want to consider. On the Sizewell B spent fuel management study we referred to at the start, the project team had a set of importance weightings that were applied, and we also had a set of weightings from the public, which was gathered during public consultation. We were able to assess whether these differences in opinions or importance change the overall decision analysis output. Equally, where there's a difference of opinion during the option assessment stage, say in a workshop environment, that person's opinion can be parked to join discussions and assessed later during this sensitivity analysis stage. It's particularly useful to show a workshop attendee, or all of them, whether a minority viewpoint can indeed change the overall outcome. Finally, there may be alternative credible assumptions that can be applied to the overall project, which may impact on decision making. The screenshots on the right of the slide are showing how sensitivity analysis is done in the HighView software, and shows that the car buying model is quite sensitive to changes. You'll see at the top in bold it says car C is preferred, but if you look down, it will show you that that decision will change to car A, with some changes in weightings to nearly all of the attributes. Okay, over to Karen.
Thanks, Alison.
You're welcome.
So, Alison has now explained the key points of the decision analysis process to you. And these are the points regardless of which options appraisal technique is used. It is, however, worth pointing out a few words of warning. Choose a decision analysis technique appropriate to the decision being made. Big, complicated projects warrant serious decision making. The output informs the final decision making process. However, the preferred solution is not necessarily the definitive answer. And where there are a number of options performing comparably, these can be carried forward for further investigation, just like the worked example of the car. And finally, I cannot express how important it is to capture the decisions and justifications made to ensure a transparent and auditable trail is created. The great thing about following the key decision analysis stages is that it shows a considered and auditable path to decision making has been undertaken.
So we've nearly finished, just a couple of slides to go. The title of this webinar is Benefits of Decision Analysis, and after 24 minutes we are finally getting to the point of telling you what the benefits are. Although I'd like to think we've already done a good enough job of convincing you that the decision analysis, in particular multi-attribute decision analysis, is the future. If you follow the advice we have shown you, I can almost guarantee that you will be able to show that you followed a systematic approach, that you have been comprehensive in your option development, you have been transparent in your decision making because you've engaged with stakeholders from the start, and you will have generated an auditable trail of decision making as you move through the key stages. Decision analysis is a powerful stakeholder tool and helps to tell the story of decision making. It provides space for challenge and also answers those challenges. So what this clearly demonstrates is how beneficial decision analysis is to give confidence to the regulator that methodical decision making has taken place with appropriate and reasonable justifications captured, creating an auditable evaluation of alternative options that can be scrutinised. What a sentence.
Got there.
Today, we've shown you how important it is to implement an options evaluation process in order to fulfill regulatory expectations. We've explained that there are a number of techniques that could be used for this. There are a number of key stages that need to be implemented, ranging from defining the problem, identifying options, developing options, and then assessing them against a set of attributes to determine a preferred solution. The benefits of decision analysis are clear. Done properly, it provides systematic, comprehensive, transparent, and auditable decision making. If you embed structured decision analysis into your projects at an early stage, you can have a real impact in the success of your projects. I hope you can see how valuable a tool decision analysis is and adopt such an approach into your projects where clear decision making is paramount. Next slide. Oh, so, as I said at the beginning, a recording of this fantastic webinar will be sent to you once we say our goodbyes. On behalf of Karen and I, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you can either put them in the question box or you can email both of us there on the addresses on the screen, and we will happily get back to you with a well-considered and thought-out response. For any marketing inquiries, please do email the address below, info.uk@tufsud.com. So thank you. I hope you've enjoyed listening to us both whittering on about decision analysis and how much we love it. Please do fly again with us again. And that's where I hear you clapping.
Thank you very much for listening.
Is there any questions? I don't think there is.
No.
Let's have a moment for people to ask some questions. Imagine there is lift music playing.
Yeah.
Just have a few moments. Is MARDA referenced in any IEC standards? What does IEC stand for? Maybe I'm showing I don't know. I will get back to you, Simon, and I will let you know.
Oh, we have another question. Is an email chain sufficient evidence for an audit trail?
It wouldn't be my preferred way. I would rather put that into a note for the record.
Does the audit trail, would the email show stakeholder engagement if that was a requirement?
Yeah.
That would be something you'd have to consider.
And does it show that you've done some thought through decision making, some decision thinking, some collaboration?
Yeah.
Not ideal, I would suggest, but maybe acceptable. Depends on the size of the project and the size of this decision you're being made.
Yeah. I mean, if I was just sending an email to my husband telling him we were buying that car.
Laura, we can talk about that offline. Anybody else?
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, Laura. Our pleasure. All right then. Well, if anybody has any further questions, please email us on the contact details above. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time, and we hope you enjoyed our presentation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.